Hello, my miraculous friend, and welcome to another episode of the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. This is Reverend Francis Faden, and I'm so grateful that we get to spend this time together helping you magnify your miracles. We've been doing a little mini series the last few episodes on the topic of prayer, and I am going to be doing this brand new training called Mother Mary's Pray Like a Priestess program, which you're welcome to join me in that. And I've just been diving deeper into this topic of prayer and why it's so important. And today, one of the things we're going to be talking about is the secret power of prayer. This is something that's been revealed to me since I started working with Mother Mary in 2012. One of the things I love about working with her is when I'm channeling, I'm getting information that I've never read in a book, I've never heard from anybody else, and it's coming directly from Mother Mary. And then usually over the course of time, it'll be validated in some way. And so this is part of what I'm going to share with you today is some of her wisdom about the power of prayer, the secret power of prayer that nobody talks about, but is absolutely true. So let's take a few deep breaths together, my friend. Just get ourselves grounded and centered. If you're driving, please keep your eyes on the road. But if you are able to just take a few deep breaths, bring your awareness to your breath. All we're simply doing is changing gears and allowing ourselves to become more receptive to the energy we're going to be experiencing today. By knowing that whatever you need to hear to magnify your miracles is exactly what you're going to be hearing. Let's take one more deep breath together in gratitude, and we can begin. All right, my friend. Well, prayer is such an amazing topic to me because it is so simple and it is so natural, and there's so much confusion around it. I was just on a podcast last week. I was interviewed by this lovely person, and this was the thing. She thought she was going to be interviewing me about one thing, and she's like, I just kept getting the feeling that we're supposed to talk about prayer, which made me smile because of course we're supposed to talk about prayer. This is what's on my mind and on my heart these days, and this is what Mother Mary's asking me. And she just, was asking me questions about how do you pray and what's, is the, all the questions that people ask of, like, as if it's something really hard to do. And what I'm going to be talking about today is the power that nobody talks about. So just to be clear, when I'm talking about prayer, I'm simply talking about when you initiate conversation with the divine or with your higher self or with your innermost self or with the cosmos or with the divine light or with whatever you call the all that is. I say Mother, Father, God, Great Spirit of the universe. That's what I like to say. And it is the process of tapping into whatever that frequency is for you and sharing, talking, having that conversation. And so you can definitely do formal prayers. Like some people memorize prayers and they say them over again. And I have a book of prayers that I'm actually going to be sharing with you. One of my favorite books on prayer, or I should say one of my favorite prayer books I'll be sharing with you, if not next week, the week after. I'm not sure when that episode's going to come out. And that's somebody else's prayers that have become, spiritualized, that have been said so much that they actually carry a vibration to them. And you can definitely do that. You can memorize prayers, but I always recommend, well, last week we talked about the 4 prayers. Mother Mary said prayers of asking, prayers of receiving, prayers of invocation, and prayers of the heart. And I always love to talk about just having a conversation. Oop, that's my calendar that fell off the wall. Sorry about that. So prayers of the heart are really just the prayers where you are speaking and just able to say from your heart. But often we have to go through a process to be able to connect. So if you didn't catch that, I highly recommend that you listen to the episode last week when I talked about Mother Mary's 4 recommended prayers. And I go much more into that. But I want to talk to you about what Mother Mary revealed to me, which is that prayers are alive. Prayer is alive. It's not just words on a page. It's not just something that just happens to happen. Prayers are, once you utter your prayer, whether you do this mentally or vocally, they imprint into the ether of the universe, and they are alive and they can continue to bless. This is what's so powerful. So this is what's different about praying like an average person and praying like a priestess. This is one of the things that you do when you pray like a priestess, is you know that you're using a medium that imprints into the universe and becomes part of the infinite. It is an eternal energy. It doesn't just go out of your mouth and then that's the end of it. So when people say, "Oh, are my prayers answered?" Your prayers are infinite. Your prayers are out there. So all the prayers that you have ever said throughout your life are blessing you right now. All the prayers you've ever said. And I've seen this, it's such a sweet thing when people connect with me and maybe they want to do a channeling session with Mother Mary. They want to talk to Mother Mary and ask some questions, which I love doing. I love doing channeling sessions. And often some people will say to me, I was raised in a different tradition, um or I haven't been talking to Mother Mary since I was like 5 years old, and I just was like, forget about this, and haven't even thought about it. And why is Mother Mary making her presence known to me now? It's the question that I have. This is something that often comes up in channeling sessions with people. Well, why is she coming to me? This is one of my questions, actually. And she usually answers something, I've heard this several times, that is so sweet. And she'll say something like, because they prayed and they called on me. And I'll say, Mother Mary, when? And she'll say, when they were 5 years old. And I'm always so touched by that. Like, when you were 5 years old and you put out a prayer and you called on Mother Mary, she heard you and she's been following you ever since. I think that's just the sweetest thing. It's just the sweetest thing. Or it might not even be in this lifetime, maybe in previous lifetimes. Maybe you lived in a monastery, you used to pray all day long, and you were really devoted. And in this lifetime, you're born into a family of atheists, and you're like, why do I have all this spiritual energy around me? Because in a past life, you were having that conversation, and time is not linear, right? So your prayers are eternal, my friends. Your prayers become part of the infinite fabric of the universe. I always say we go back into the field of unconditional love. Well, the field of unconditional love is woven with all of our prayers, all of our prayers. Isn't that a powerful image? I love that so much. So the secret power of prayer is recognizing that whatever you pray is going to continue to bless you. So a lot of times people beat up on themselves because they're like, oh, I started my prayer practice and then I fell off and I haven't even gotten back to it for like a year. And should I even start again? Because it's been so long. And the answer is absolutely. Pick up where you left off. Just keep going, because time is not linear and your prayers are not like that. Your prayers are part of the infinite fabric of life. So as you pray, you're just expanding that fabric for yourself. Now, here's the really cool thing. I think this is really cool. Every prayer that you pray, not only does it bless you, but it gets passed down into your lineage. So if you have kids, your prayers are blessing them. And it'll keep going down to your grandkids and so on and so on. And if you don't have kids, it'll go to your nieces and your nephews. And if you don't have nieces and nephews, it'll go to whoever it is that you love. Your prayers get passed down, which means that your mom and your dad, your grandparents, your great grandparents, all of your ancestors' prayers are blessing you. And I can vouch for this. I know that this is true. I had an aunt who, she was, she a Franciscan? I think she was a Franciscan. She was a nun. And she used to pray a rosary for me every day. And this was like back when I was like, I don't want to have nothing to do with nothing. I was like, leave me alone with anything having to do with rosaries or Mother Mary. I was like, nope, no thanks. And she would say a rosary for me every single day. And I know that rosary that she prayed, those prayers, that intention that she had was like a bubble of protection around me. And I know it brought grace into my life in a way that I didn't understand. So that by the time Mother Mary manifested and I had this visitation with her in 2012, I'm sure that my aunt's prayers helped pave the way, A, for it to happen, and B, for me to be open to it, because I was not open to it for a really long time. And so I'm going to say right now, thank you to my aunt who is in heaven right now and probably laughing about this. So, prayers, my friend, become part of the fabric of the universe. They don't go anywhere. And that's the power of them. This is why I'm encouraging you to deepen your prayer life, to really take it more seriously. When I say seriously, I don't mean in a heavy way. I mean like, oh, this is actually working. And you start to understand that, like, oh, this isn't just some hocus pocus going on here. This is actually quantum physics. This is kind of like how things are actually working. One last thing I want to share with you is, again, this topic of our prayers, other people's prayers, should you memorize prayers, all of that. It's totally up to you. I find great power in the prayers of great saints, because these are people of high consciousness that were tapping into really powerful energy and then usually downloading prayers. And then they have a lot of power in them because they're coming from that frequency. So do you have to do that? You don't have to do that. But for example, the prayer that's attributed to Saint Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is sorrow, may I sow joy, or whatever it is. I don't have it memorized. That prayer has been around now for what, 1,000 years? People still find great comfort in that prayer. Or I think about the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? They say that in 12 step. That is a prayer that people memorize that has been blessing people, especially in the 12 step community, for years and years and years and years, millions of people. And when you're really stressed out and you might be having a hard time, like getting your thoughts clear to come up with a prayer, having a go to prayer like the Serenity Prayer can be really powerful. And it's been prayed so many times, kind of like the Hail Mary. It's been prayed so many times that when you start to pray it, you start to tap into the frequency of everybody else that's praying that prayer. It's one of the other secret powers of prayer that a lot of people don't talk about, prayers. And then Yogananda talks about prayers becoming spiritualized. And again, I'm going to be sharing more about one of my favorite books of his. If not next week, the week after, we'll see. I have to see how the things go. But I want to share with you, as we're closing, a prayer that made itself known to me. I did not know whose prayer this was, but when I saw it and I read it, I was like, ah, oh, this prayer is for me. And then when I was getting ready to do this episode, I was like, you know what? I got to look up this prayer and see like who wrote this. And when I saw it, I just smiled because I love this saint. So I'm going to read you this. So I was on vacation this summer in August. We went up to Woodstock, New York, got to go visit the Shrine of Our Lady of Woodstock, which was awesome. And I highly recommend you go if you can. But Woodstock is a really cool town. And we went into this little gift shop that had all kinds of cool little artsy knickknacks and things like that. And one of the things that they had was they had these beautiful blank journals that had this leather cover on it. And what on the other side of this cover is imprinted this prayer. And this, it jumped out at me. Here it is. And I looked at this and I was like, oh my God. This is the universe talking to me. And I've made this my prayer because it speaks to my soul in such a deep way. And I'm going to read it to you now. I'm going to write this and I'll put it in the show notes so that you can have it. But I'm going to read it to you. So I ask you to take a breath and take in this prayer. Again, we're talking about the secret power of prayer. This is a prayer from at least 500 years ago. There's a little clue. May today there be peace within. May you trust you are exactly where you're meant to be. May you not forget the infinite possibilities that are born of faith in yourself and others. May you use the gifts that you have received and pass on the love that has been given to you. May you be content with yourself just the way you are. Let this knowledge settle into your bones and allow your soul the freedom to sing, dance, praise, and love. It is there for each and every one of us. Amen. Whew, I can feel chills from that prayer. I'm curious if that impacted you. I read that and I was like, oh my God, this is the compass that I need. I need to read this every day. So even though it was on the top of a journal, I was like, I'm buying this journal. I collect journals anyway, but so lovely. Look at that. I'm holding it up. So if you're on YouTube, you can see this beautiful prayer. Guess who wrote that prayer? St. Teresa of Avila. St. Teresa of Avila, whose feast day happens to be October 15th, the month that this episode is going to be coming out. St. Teresa of Avila tapped me on the shoulder through this prayer. She said this prayer in what, 1528 or something like that. I forget exactly when she was alive. She's around in the 1500s. Here she is, 500 years later, blessing me with a prayer that was written down that she uttered 500 years ago. Prayers are infinite and they are eternal and they don't go anywhere. They continue to bless you. So, my friend, if you do not have a daily prayer practice, please consider giving yourself the gift of having one. You can start with somebody else's prayer, like the prayer of St. Teresa of Avila. May today there be peace within. And you can bless yourself that way. You can learn how to do prayers of the heart. If you're welcome, I would love to have you join me in the Pray Like a Priestess program, where we are going to be going deep dive into exactly this topic and how you can learn to pray in the similar way as St. Teresa of Avila, who, for lack of a better word, in my opinion, was absolutely a priestess. Of course, they wouldn't call her that back then at that time, but absolutely. St. Hildegard of Bingen, all these powerful, powerful women. Of course, they're priestesses. They just didn't have words for it back then. They don't even really have words for it now, to be honest. So I'm so curious what you thought about that. And does this prayer touch you the way that it touched me? It just went right in the middle of my heart, right down deep into my soul. Like, oh my God, this is the truth. When you pray, you change the energy of your life. When you pray, you change the trajectory of your life. When you pray, you can change your karma. Everything changes. This is why when Mother Mary comes, she came to Medjugorje in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and she came to Rwanda 10 years before the genocide, 10 years before the wars. And she asked us to pray. Why would she ask us to do that? Because it's what changes us. It's what changes our hearts. It's what connects us to the universe. And it can change everything if we allow it. But remember, we don't just ask, we have to ask and we have to receive. And then when we learn how to invoke, whew, that's when the energy really shifts. And then we say the prayers of the heart, and whew, man, you are on that level. This, in my opinion, this prayer of St. Teresa of Avila is definitely a prayer of the heart for sure. So I'd love to have you join me if you'd like to do that. francisfaden.com/prayer. And that's the sign up page. Right now, we have this super early registration, which is going to be ending, I believe, October 13th. So if you're listening to this before October 13th, it's basically like half off. And we also have payment plans that work for you. After that, the price is going to be going up. And we begin on Halloween. We go from Halloween to Mardi Gras. So we're going to be spending a full season praying and getting ourselves ready to have a really miraculous Lenten season. My friend, if this is something that resonated with you, please feel free to leave me a comment. I love your comments and I answer all of them. I love having this dialogue with you wherever you are. If you know somebody who could benefit from learning about the secret power of prayer, please feel free to let them know about this episode and to share it social media. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe so that you always know when the next episode is coming. And remember, as always, the key to magnifying your miracles is to know your miracle is already here. God bless you, my friend. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.